Thank you to AndrewAJT, our Patreon sponsor for this video, and thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Hello everyone, my name is AndrewAJT, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 underrated special attacks in old school RuneScape. So everyone likes to talk about special attacks like the Dragon Warhammer or the AGS or the Gmaul, but there's actually a lot of special attacks in the game, and there's a lot of variety in them, and some of them are actually quite useful, and nobody really uses them or talks about them, so I'm going to be counting them down in this video. So for this list, we're mainly going to be focusing on the special attack and not so much the strength of the weapon itself, and there's a very good example of this, which we'll actually start off the list with number 10. This is the Ancient Mace from the Another Slice of Ham quest, and the special attack is called Favor of the War God, and you might think this is just a pretty weak mace. It really doesn't have many stats. It's a very, very weak item, but it has a very useful special attack. So it deals basically normal damage, but it heals your prayer based on what you hit. It heals 100% of what you hit to your prayer, which basically makes it a budget SGS. The SGS only heals a quarter of your prayer based on what you hit, but it's obviously a lot stronger. But the very interesting thing with the Ancient Mace is it can actually bring your prayer above full. So if this is not going to be perfect, but if we drink a strength pot here and then use the spec, look at my prayer. Boom, I have 135 prayer points there, which is impossible to get anywhere else, so this is actually very useful. It's great for lower level players to get some prayer points back for free. It's good in places like the Inferno where you can bring more prayer in to start with or recover your prayer during it, and it's also good for smiting other players, so this is a very weak weapon which has very powerful uses. Number 9 on the list is the Abyssal Bludgeon spec, which nobody ever talks about. People forget that this even has a spec. What it basically does is it takes 50% of your spec energy and it deals more damage for every prayer point that you lack. So this can actually hit insanely high. Like literally no one even knows about this, so watch how high this hits. So I'm going to turn on the spec, prayer, and boom, 84. This thing hits an 84, that's like AGS-like, and it's like 25 mil from the GE. This is a very powerful special attack, and it's a very good crush weapon as well. The only reason this isn't higher on the list is because I don't really know where you would use this. In PvP, you don't really want your prayer to be drained so low, so you don't really want to get smited. And I used to use this at Vedion, but I don't think it's really worth bringing anymore because the Vigorous Chain Mace and Dragon Warhammer are probably better. But still, something that hits an 84 is definitely worth talking about. Number 8 on the list is the Circle Bow, and you might be thinking, this item is absolute garbage. Aside from looking kind of like a twisted short bow, why would this item be on the list? So this item has a very sneaky special attack. I wouldn't call it extremely useful, but it has some very nice uses. So basically what it does is it's called Soulshot, and it has a 100% chance of hitting, and it has a cool animation too. And it doesn't usually hit very high, but there is kind of one thing about it that's very nice. So it actually lowers your opponent's magic level by exactly what you hit. This has some huge implications in PvP minigames, especially ones like Castle Wars, or for example this old one I used to play called Fist of Guthix pre-EOC. The idea is, let's say someone is casting Ice Barrage on you and they are 94 magic. Well, if you spec them with the Circle and it's always going to hit, let's say it hits a 10, that actually brings them down to 84 magic, and they actually won't be able to cast Ice Barrage on you anymore, which is a huge deal. So you could actually still use this in minigames such as Castle Wars or Clan Wars, and you could also use this in the Wilderness or maybe in Dead Man mode. It has some kind of interesting uses, even though it is a big commitment to use all of your spec energy for it, so I think people could probably get more creative with the Circle. Number 7 is the Barrel Chest Anchor special attack, Sunder, which is very unique because it does so many different things. So it doubles your chance of hitting at all, which is really nice because it's already a very accurate weapon, so it's almost like a guaranteed hit. It can hit 10% higher, which is pretty cool considering it has a 100 strength bonus already, and it can also lower your opponent's attack, magic, ranged, or defense randomly, which is pretty weird, but it could be useful. And it also is just such a monster weapon. I mean, look how high this thing can hit. Boom, 66. So you can also combine this with a Gmaul or whatnot because it only takes half your spec bar. So this is very nice for pures or lower levels who want a more powerful blow. Number 6 is the Arclight and Darklight specs Weaken, which basically lower your opponent's attack, strength, and defense levels on successful hits by 5% each, and this is actually doubled against demons. So you're basically getting a 15% or 30% melee stats reduction. So everyone likes the defense reduction that the Dragon Warhammer and the BGS have, but this one even lowers your opponent's offensive capabilities, making them much easier to fight. So this is kind of useful as a budget Dragon Warhammer against certain things, and it's actually nice in some situations against Corp where you can actually make Corp weaker overall and easier to kill. So even though this isn't the best and it's quite inaccurate unfortunately, it definitely has its place among useful weapons when bossing. Number 5 is the Dragon Battle Axe spec Rampage, and this is very good for lower levels than Iron Man. I used to use this a lot when the game came out and there wasn't really readily available potions. Basically, it raises your strength a lot, kind of comparable to a super strength pot, and it does lower your other combat stats, including your attack, but it's very easy to get those back up with either restore potions or an attack pot. So if you're a lower level in Iron Man, you can have a very consistent strength boost with the Dragon Battle Axe spec for free. Of course, if you have a big supply of super combat pots or super strength pots, it becomes pretty useless and a waste of your spec energy, but because it's such a game changer in early stages of the game, it definitely deserves a spot on this list. Number 4 is the Zamorak Godsword. People tend to have an impression of the ZGS as a very useless item because the special attack is clearly the worst out of all the Godswords, but I think it's actually quite useful. It freezes your opponent for 20 seconds similar to Ice Barrage, and it's very accurate as well. This has both uses in PvP, PvM, and offensively and defensively. In PvM, it's very useful against the Saradomin boss. You can freeze her and really deal a lot of damage before she gets unfrozen. Obviously, when you're using it in PvP, you can freeze your opponents, prevent them from escaping, and it's actually pretty good. Like, it really hits almost every single time, whereas Ice Barrage and Entangle can splash a lot. And it also has a good defensive use because if you're doing PvM, you can actually freeze your opponent and then go under them and log out. So all of these uses make it pretty underrated in my opinion. A lot of people just write this off as a useless spec because, you know, why wouldn't you just use Ice Barrage? But having a freeze weapon from a melee item is pretty unique and very, very unusual. Number 3 is the Dragon 2H Sword, which has a special attack known as Powerstab, and this basically delivers an earthquake-like attack which can hit multiple opponents at once. It doesn't actually hit any higher or more accurate, but it can hit up to 14 NPCs at once, or up to 3 players in PvP situations. It's really good in the Nightmare Zone because you can get the Power Surge power-up and use it basically multiple times, and this means that you can get a lot of points and XP very quickly. It's also good in other minigames such as Pest Control or Castle Wars. It's also pretty good in the Nightmare Zone because you can get this Power Surge power-up which heals your spec energy really quick, and that means that you can use it repeatedly for a lot of XP and a lot of points as well. I remember back in the day there was no cap on how many players you could use it on at once, so I would go to Castle Wars and find like a mosh pit of people on the other team, and I would use this spec and I would get these huge XP drops and just really put a hammer blow down to the other team. So it definitely has its uses. I feel like a lot of people don't know about this or they forget about it pretty quick, but it's a really cool special attack. The runner-up spot on our list is the Staff of the Dead spec, also shared by the Staff of Light and Toxic Staff of the Dead. This is the Power of Death special attack, and what it does is purely defensive. It reduces melee damage by 50% for 1 minute as long as the staff is equipped, and this is really useful. It's really one of the best defensive options in the wilderness. I mean, think about it. The Elysian Spirit Shield on average reduces damage by 17%. The Protection Prayers reduce damage by 40%. This reduces melee damage by 50%, basically taking melee out of the equation. It lets you really focus on praying from mage and range, and because you can get such good magic defense and the staff itself has really good magic defense, you can actually do what I'm doing here and just kind of camp pray range because you are very well protected from the other forms of combat. It's very convenient as well because a lot of people have the Staff of the Dead as their +1 weapon in PvP. It's a very good mage weapon, gives so much mage bonus, gives really good mage defense. It's also a very good melee weapon, making it one of the best hybrid weapons in the game. So it's not like you have to go out of your way to bring this. A lot of people will actually have this as their main staff, as one of the PKers does here. So you pretty much will always have this on you, and it's so useful. It really makes the difference in these type of situations. The only downside is a minute is really not that long, so if you're really deep in the wilderness, the PKers might be able to outlast the protection, and then you're on your own. Before we talk about number 1, I do want to give an honorable mention to the Bandos Godsword. This special attack deals up to 21% more damage, it's double accuracy, and it drains defense by what you hit, which makes it one of the best special attacks in the game. The only thing is I'm not sure if this is underrated. It definitely used to have the kind of stigma as being the noob godsword, but I think people have kind of gone past that now. It's also been buffed twice. It used to take 100% of special attack energy, then it was reduced to 65%, and now it only does 50%, which makes it even a little bit overpowered in my opinion. This is a ridiculously good special attack, and some people think of it still as a newbie special attack, but I think most people nowadays realize that this special attack is seriously good. The most underrated special attack in Old School is the Crystal Halberd, which you can get after the Western Hard Diary. It has a special attack which is basically the same as the Dragon Halberd spec called Sweep. This can hit multiple enemies at once, and it can also deal 2 hit splats against large opponents, and it also does 10% more damage, which can mean that you're getting some huge double hits. It's kind of like an upgraded DDS against large opponents. It hits super high. It's also really accurate, although the second hit is not quite as accurate as the first one. You can get some pretty insane combos with this. They also updated it semi-recently to work against the Corporal Beast, which means that it can be one of the best weapons there. It's a really good anti-crashing weapon. If you have this weapon in your back pocket and people try to crash you at Bandos or something, you can whip this out and you'll probably get every kill. Even though it doesn't heal you or anything or reduce stats, it's a very, very good special attack weapon. You can use it 3 times and you'll still have 10% spec energy left because it only does 30% of your spec bar. So this is a very, very cool item, and it's really cool that they added this to the game, which people had been asking for many years. So those are the top 10 underrated special attack weapons in Old School RuneScape. Did you guys agree with my list? Did you think I left anything out? I didn't include things like the Dragon Longsword and Dragon Mace because I think the DDS is just better than them, and it's really easy to get a DDS, so there's really no point to those other specs, but who knows, maybe they are actually kind of useful. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please like the video if you enjoyed, that's the best way to support the channel. You can also subscribe and hit the bell icon if you haven't already to get notifications whenever I upload a new video. If you want to see more top 10 videos like this one, I have a whole playlist of them, which I'll put in the end screen and also in the description. You can join my clan chat in-game, AndrewAJT62. When I'm recording this on Memorial Day, we have 55 people in it, so that's definitely very good to see. You can invite your friends as well. You can also join my Discord down below. You can follow me on Twitter down below, and I'll follow you back if you play OSRS. You can follow me on Twitch down below, and if you're interested in supporting the channel even further, you can join our Patreon page down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.